If a man missed out on the love that he needed to grow and develop during his formative years, it is not going to be a surprise if he behaves like an extension of his mother now that he is an adult. He will no longer be a powerless and dependent child, but as he was deprived, he won't realize this deep down. As he was unlikely to have been able to attach to her and then to break away, his survival will still be attached to her. This will relate to both his emotional and physical survival. Physically, then, he will be a man, but deep down, he will feel like a deeply wounded boy. When what is taking place for him at an emotional level is taken into account, it will make sense as to why he is inside his mother's world. Many, many years will have passed since he was a boy, and yet he won't have really changed emotionally. So, even though he is now an adult and does have control over his life, this is not something that he will realize. Along with what was not provided by his mother, there is also likely to have been what was not provided by his father. His father might not have been around, or he may have been around and lacked backbone and been walked over. If he was around, as opposed to having a father then, who was in his power and stood up to his mother, he would have had a father who tolerated what was going on and acted more like her servant than her equal. This would have meant that his father supported her destructive behavior and allowed it to continue. Now, if the man was to step back and reflect on his own behavior, what he may see is that he is playing a role that is very similar to the one that his father played very early on. Perhaps his father is around, or perhaps his father has passed on. Either way, just as his father would have put up with her destructive behavior and met some of her needs, he himself will do the same thing. He could see that if his father had stood his ground, his mother probably would have had to change, and if he was to change his behavior, his mother would also have to change. Thanks to how his father behaved when he was a child, and how he is behaving now that he is an adult, his mother was able to, and is still able to, avoid taking responsibility for her destructive behavior. This is likely to go back even further, with there being people in her life before she met his father who also behaved in the same way. If he didn't take the next step and look into what he can do to change his life, he could end up with a woman who is very similar to his mother. Not only this, he could end up having a son, and instead of standing up for him, he could abandon him and allow his mother to use him. He would then go from the one who wasn't protected to being the one who doesn't protect. By being in an underdeveloped state and not being in his own power, he wouldn't be able to stand up for his son, as he would fear being rejected and abandoned. And as he wouldn't be emotionally available as a result of being in a traumatized state and being emotionally caught up with his mother, his partner would also be emotionally unavailable. This would then play a part, along with her own early deprivation, in why she would look towards her son to be there for her. Nonetheless, as things stand, he is going to have enough to deal with without thinking about. If he didn't take the next step and was to end up with a woman who was like his mother and had a son. Additionally, he is not consciously going to be choosing to experience life in this way, so there is no need for him to blame himself and create unnecessary pressure about what may happen in the future if he behaves in the same way. What is important is for him to realise that he was abandoned early on, and this left him in a bad way. However, what he can keep in mind is that now that he is an adult, he has what it takes to gradually change his life. So if you're a man and you can relate to this, you can see that you came from a background where your father and perhaps others enabled your mother's dysfunctional behaviour, and as you were deprived of what you needed to grow and develop in the right way, you have continued to enable her behaviour. And the key thing for you to keep in mind is that if you had received what you needed, your life is likely to be very different. And in order for you to gradually change your life, you are likely to have beliefs to question and pain to work through. And in order for you to do this, you may need to reach out for external support. But the main thing is that you don't suffer in silence and do what you need to do to gradually change your life. If you would like to find out more about the services that I offer, please go to www.oliverjrcooper.co.uk or email me at info@oliverjrcooper.co.uk, and I'm looking forward to assisting you on your journey.